guys, and welcome back to my channel. So if you don't already know, I'm going to be doing a series of videos for YouTube, and they're all going to be science-based for each particular muscle in your body. Now, we trained shoulders last week and we went through the whole science and anatomy of shoulders, and this week I decided to do back. Now, the back for me is one of the most important and sufficient muscles that you must train. If you're not training back, I really hope this video convinces you enough to go and train it, and to train it hard. So stay tuned, because I'm going to go through the whole muscular anatomy of the back as well as the skeletal anatomy and its functions and specific exercises to target each bit of your back. So without further ado, stay tuned and let's go. Training your back will help you lift heavier when it comes to compound movements, especially deadlifts and squats, which are obviously very essential when it comes to training your legs. Training your back will also help with your posture as well as the overall structure of your body. Also, training only abs and thinking that that's going to make your abs or your waist appear smaller, then let's think that one again. When you train your back, what will happen is, especially if you train your laterals properly, is your back will naturally become wider. Now, don't be afraid of this, because what happens is when the back appears wider, your waist appears smaller. When it comes to warming up your back, what I love to do is go on the assisted pull-up and do about 30 to 40 reps and really engage and warm up my muscles. And what I like to do is do wide grip, middle grip and a close grip, where I work my biceps slightly, because naturally when you train your back, you're going to hit your biceps. Don't go crazy, just really focus on warming up and telling those muscles you're about to train them. The first muscle we're going to go into when it comes to the back is your lats. Now, your lats are what I would say one of the most important muscles to train when it comes to your back. The reason being is this creates the width of your back, and some people like to call this the upside down triangle effect, where you fan out the side bits of your back, so you make your back and your structure wider and your waist, of course, appear smaller. Your laterals attach from your humerus, which is your arm bone, to your scapula, which is your shoulder blades. It then attaches to your lower thoracic spine, and finally it connects to your thoracolumbar fascias, which is essentially the lower bit of your back. So as you can imagine, it goes up and all the way down, and I like to refer to this as the upside down triangle effect. Now, the two primary functions of the lats are something called an internal rotation and a shoulder extension. And an internal rotation essentially means is where your arm, your humerus, the top of the bone, is moving inwards and inside. Shoulder extension is essentially when you're bringing your arms upwards. Now, this is shoulder flexion, you're bringing them up over your head. And then when you bring the weight back down, that's something called a shoulder extension, and you're contracting your back and your muscles, and especially contracting your lats to grow in width. The second muscle we're going to go into is the trapezius. Don't be afraid and don't be alarmed. I'm not talking about you developing massive shrugged shoulders like most men out there like. Women, I know you like something else and something different, but don't be alarmed, that's not what I'm referring to. Now, when it comes to the traps, there are three essential subsections of muscles that I want you to remember. You have the upper trap, which is essentially connected to your skull. You have the middle scap, which runs across from your back and it connects to your scapula. And then you have your lower trap, which run from the lower to middle back and then connects upwards to your scapula as well. As you can see, the fibers run upwards. So when you go to the gym, essentially what most men do is they do a shrug to train their upper traps, which is a great movement. But if you really want to engage the fibers within the middle and the lower traps, you want to work with exercises that essentially connect and work with the direction of the muscle fibers. Your middle traps will help with something called a scapular retraction, and this essentially means when you're pulling your back together. A great exercise for this is something like a face pull where you're at an angle and you're pulling your scapula, contracting it together, and you'll get all the tiny fibers working in your middle section of your traps. Your lower traps are very important as they create something called a scapular depression. And this essentially means your shoulder blades are contracting downwards so they engage towards your rib cage. You can see that happening when you do something like a chin up and you're bringing your body back down, or even when you're doing a lat pull down and you can see your arms are flexed up to begin with and then you're bringing them back down, and this also will cause something called a scapular depression. Performing an exercise like a pull-up or a chin-up, the primary muscle you are working is your lats, but you're also working your lower traps. When you're extending your arms upwards to pull your body weight, you are actually engaging your lower traps as well as your lats, which will cause something called a scapular depression, as we mentioned before. I truly believe that a pull-up, whether that be assisted, you using resistant bands, or you being able to do it yourself, is one of the best movements for strength, endurance, and even building your back. And I always like to incorporate pull-up or a chin-up right at the beginning of my workout. The top tips I will say when it comes to a chin-up is to try and touch your chest. And when you come up, to try and hold it for 3 to 4 seconds. That will really start engaging the muscles in your back, and you'll start to feel the contraction much more than just speeding the process and doing as many reps as you can. When it comes to chin-up and pull-ups, it's all about strength. So the more you can endure by staying up and slowly making your way down will be a better result in the long run for you. Another muscle that I really want to touch on, and I believe is kind of ignored, is the rhomboid. Now, this section of the body is actually a really deep muscle underneath your traps. They run at an angle, and what this means is they naturally cause a Christmas tree effect. So the fibers are running down like so. They're not running upwards, but they're running down. So I like to refer this as a Christmas tree. These muscles will really engage when you do any type of horizontal movements. A row is brilliant, whether you're doing a bent over row or even a seated cable row. You're really going to contract and work that rhomboid, which is such a deep muscle, but it will definitely pop and make the traps pop even more when you're training it properly. What I would say when it comes to bent over rows is to start light and to really work on the motion and the exercise and how to perform the exercise. A bent over row is brilliant in creating symmetry and balance to your back. And this is a pulling motion, so remember, any type of pulling motion, you're actually engaging your rhomboid. So this is really good to target that in-deep and in-depth muscle that you can't really see, but it needs to be trained. You want to create a nice stretch when you're bringing the weight down, but you never want to touch the floor with your weight. You then want to pull through the elbow and really contract your scapula and engage your rhomboid as much as you can. Grip is important. Now, I like to trick my muscles. I don't like doing the same thing over and over again. Your muscles do get used to something. So if you change up your workout just by adding weight or just by changing grip, you will feel the exercise, I believe, a little bit more than just doing the same weight and the same exercise consistently. Now, when it comes to grip, especially when you're doing a lat pull down, closed grip, you're going to work your teres minors. I talk all about the teres minors and rotational cuffs in my shoulder video, so if you want to go there and check that out, feel free to do so. Wide grip lateral pull downs will activate your lats much more, and it will definitely help build width to your lats, which is essentially what we want. We want a wider back to make your lower back and your core appear smaller. Now, I've spoken a lot about the upper back. We've spoken about the lats, the traps, and the rhomboid. Now, there's something I do want to speak about when it comes to the lower back. Lower back is connected to your abdominals, believe it or not. So I would suggest when you're training your lower back, you do need to engage some sort of abdominal movements to really contract those small lower back fibers. Other exercises such as deadlifts or even hyperextensions are brilliant for training the lower back. The 3 essential muscles of the lower back. The first one is the multifidi, and essentially these are really small muscles and fibers in your lower back. Now you can't really see these muscles. They're really small and really vulnerable. But these actually help with control and they help with engagement of small movements within your workout. You have a big muscle in your lower back, which is called a quadralis lumborum. So this muscle runs from your lower hip to the top of your back. It will help with controlling and resisting any type of motion. It will also help with side-to-side movements. The final lower back muscle is called your erector spinae, and this is the larger portion of your back. And these muscles run from your sacrum to the top of the hip all the way up to your back. It's essential when it comes to controlling motion, ability, and it will definitely help you with compound movements such as deadlifts and squats. Now I really want to talk about the skeleton and how that helps with the functioning of your workouts and overall posture. Now your spine is actually in a category called an axial skeleton, and this consists of the rib cage, the skull and the spine. And what people like to refer this to as is the protectors. And what I mean by protectors is, well, of course the rib cage will protect your heart and your lungs, your skull protects your brain, and your spine is your overall posture and stability. So how is the spine relevant? Well, to begin with, let's actually break down the spine into 5 categories. You have the beginning, which is the top of your neck, and this is called the cervical, made out of 7 vertebrae. Then you have your thoracic spine, which is made up of 12 vertebrae, and this is really connected to the traps, to the lats, and to the rhomboid. Your lumbar is made out of 5 vertebrae, which is between your rib cage and your pelvis, which is essentially just a little bit of the lower back. Your sacrum and your coccyx are fused vertebrae. Your sacrum consists of 5 vertebrae and your coccyx consists of 4 vertebrae, and these are fused vertebrae. So overall you have 33 vertebrae, but you only have 24 vertebrae that are actually movable. So we've eliminated the fused ones of the sacrum and the coccyx, and you're left with 24 that you can actually move around with. Your lumbar actually supports the most weight of your body, and this is essential when you're performing exercises like squats and deadlifts, where you really need to hold that bar and create a powerful compound movement. So these vertebrae are going to be working a little bit harder. As well as your spine, the other bone that you're really using when it comes to any back exercises is your scapula. When it comes to any type of rowing, especially seated rows, you're extending forwards and then you're bringing back. And that's a lot of scapular movement and scapular contraction. Now we've gone through the muscular and skeleton anatomy and my key exercises. What I really want to do is give you some tips on how to work your back and train it to its full potential. When it comes to back, I genuinely believe that control, stability, and taking your time is the best way. Yes, lifting heavy is great, but honestly, leave your ego at the door, especially when it comes to exercises like deadlifts. You want to make sure your form is accurate, and back and contraction work hand in hand. If you're training your back but you're not feeling it, you're not really going to hit those fibers and muscles to its full potential. I will always say to everyone I know that muscle and mind connection is what is going to make you feel the burn much more. Don't just think about completing your workout, completing your sets. Actually focus on contracting your muscles together and feeling your muscles working. Actually feel those fibers working. That is it for my back video. I really hope you learned something. I really hope I simplified it for you. I didn't want to overcomplicate. I really hope you learned something new today and you thoroughly enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and to comment down below any suggestions you like. Any bit of advice I love. Anything you want me to answer, feel free. For all workout plans and meal plans, I will attach the link below. And obviously make sure to follow me on Instagram, where I give you daily tips, daily videos and workouts. I love you always and forever. Bye.